Henrico County, Miss Smidler.
Here.
New Kent County, Miss Inman.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. Powhatan County, Mr. Webb. Mr. Shardine. City of Richmond, Chair Clark.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Plan RVA, Mr. Bushing. Mr. Bushing.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Ariel.
Here.
DRPT, Mr. Hudson.
Here.
GRTC, Miss Robinson. Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Ride Finders, Mr. O'Keefe.
Here.
RMTA, Miss Simmons. VDOT, Mr. Hagan.
Here.
And Mr. Scheid. That concludes the roll call for attendance. We
Here.
do have a quorum.
Thank you.
And Mr. Longerbeam has just joined us.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, consideration of amendments to the meeting agenda. Hearing none. Approval of the May 13th TAC meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Sharon
John
Smidler.
O'Keefe, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. And Sharon, is that a second?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, that motion is approved. Open public comment period. Any citizens from around the region joining us today?
We have not received any requests for public comment.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 6. I don't have a chair's report, so on to item 7. Mr. Bushing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, so this first item that we have for you today is a request from DRPT to amend the tip for this year's FTA 5310 projects. So as you know, the 5310 program exists to enhance mobility for seniors and people with disabilities. And every year, DRPT has an application cycle to select projects to fund. This year, we have 8 new projects that are not currently in the tip, which need to be amended, which means the tip needs to be amended to add them. And of those projects, it's a wide range. So we have operating assistance, we have new paratransit vehicle purchases, we have capital cost of contracting, which is essentially depreciation of assets from private contractors who are providing the services, and then mobility management, which is coordination of the services. So these are the 8 projects that we're looking at. I'll go through each of those categories briefly just to give a summary of the project totals, but all the details are in your agenda packet already. So under operating assistance, we have the span setter with $159,000, Let's Go service with $105,000, and GRTC with $95,000. And if you aren't already aware, the span center is Senior Connections, new name. So just so everyone knows that. For capital cost of contracting, we have Hanover Dash and Chesterfield County. Hanover's at $900,000, Chesterfield's $500,000. For the vehicle purchases, we have Let's Go Service, $77,000, and Hart Havens, $95,000. And then finally, for mobility management, we have the Span Center at $315,000. So those are the 8 projects that have been awarded funding this year. And the request is for the TAC to recommend approval of the TIP amendment as requested by DRPT. So we can go ahead and add these projects and get those funds obligated for the new fiscal year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Miles. So this is exciting. It looks like additional dollars to the 5310 eligible entities in the region. Thank you, DRPT. Do we know if DRPT is on with these 8 new projects, the increase from, say, previous fiscal or allocations to these entities, has that grown? It sounds like it would have.
Irona, this is Wood Hudson with DRPT. This allocation is based on those grantees coming in and applying for funds through DRPT's grant programs. And the shifts are just being made in advance of those funds being awarded. This basically sets things up so we can develop the federal application that funds the entire 53 program on behalf of the subrecipients.
Wow, thank you, Hudson. I mean, Wood. Um, that's great. All right, so it sounds like this would be amending our overall transportation improvement program plan. So is there a motion uh for
Madam Chair,
approval of this?
motion. I'll make
Thank
a
you,
motion.
Amy.
Yeah.
Is there a second? And anyone want to clarify and read it out if you need to, Miles, for the record?
Put it back on the screen, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So broken down with those 8 new projects being moved around in the planning document, which will help feed in for the federal request. This should be recommended as a proposed tip amendment. It was a motion by Amy. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. With that, let's see, do I have?
We can do a
No.
voice vote on this, Madam Chair.
Perfect. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Awesome, thank you.
No, Madam Chair. Oh,
I'm sorry.
my hand up. Sorry.
Okay,
My
there you
hand
go. I'm sorry, Amy.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say, I want to recognize both Chesterfield and Hanover County because I believe their programs are longstanding and they have met a need through the region and then in the rural areas for quite some time. And I think, that should be acknowledged and appreciated, as well as, for areas that don't have rural service, this could be a really good model for those areas as well. So thank you.
Yeah, Amy, when they were flashing through, I was looking at the local match and to see how the CVTA dollars and the dollars that go to transit and how those connect. So yeah, I think that you're definitely starting to align how we can definitely leverage better dollars to rural public transportation providers in the region or specialty providers. So thank you.
Specifically elderly and disabled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Any further discussion, comments? Well, moving on, look, that's a great, looks like gateway into item 8, which is rural transportation analysis. Dan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Share my screen here. All right, good morning, everyone. Yes, so today I'm going to give an overview of the final report for the rural transportation analysis. And this is a result of a 9-month process involved a lot of people on this call and a lot of people off this call. So I just want to thank everybody who was involved in this process. So just a quick overview here. The rural transportation needs and alternative analysis, as it's called, was designed to better understand and address the public transportation needs of rural communities in Charles City County, Goochland, Hanover, New Kent, and Powhatan. And the final report provides service alternative improvements and to guide for future efforts. And that is what we are talking about today. So just to quickly go over the services we're talking about here. So we looked at fixed route systems, so transit service that operates on a set route with the set schedule, GRT buses, Pulse BRT, microtransit on-demand tech-enabled transit that uses shared vehicles with dynamic routing and designated areas. That is GRTC Link, and Bay Transit is also launching microtransit as well. Demand response systems, a non-fixed route that adjust based on rider requests, and then commuter and express services, mostly running between suburbs, city centers, largely utilized by commuters as well. So we assessed all of these different services, and we found with the population density and land use in the rural counties, of course, the viability of service with the attractive frequencies that people would find useful is challenging in many of these areas. So we kind of took fixed route service quickly out of the running for possible alternatives in this area. Microtransit there, we have seen the viability of microtransit as it's been tested by GRTC with its link service, which has largely been successful. And we see that there's future zones planned as well there. For demand response, longer booking lead times and less frequent service can fill in the gaps in areas that can't support microtransit, but of course it's not as frequent or reliable as the other systems. And for commuter and express service, we did see that the demand between these counties in the study area and downtown Richmond does provide regular and predictable ridership. So here's a summary of the existing service in the this is just showing the study area counties. So for fixed route, GRTC does extend slightly into Goochland and Hanover County, but just slightly on the edges. We don't have any commuter express services that extend into these counties currently. And we do have some microtransit microtransit zones in Hanover and Powhatan County, just certain areas of Hanover County, and we saw a smaller zone in Powhatan, and that's being expanded. Bay Transit, which is present in Charles City and New Kent, launching microtransit, and they also have demand response in, I believe, 12 counties, along with Charles City and New Kent County. Also, Hanover Dash exists obviously in Hanover and also extends, I believe, 7 miles out of the county. So that gets into a bit of Goochland and New Kent counties. So the potential services that we looked at, again, we mentioned we did not evaluate fixed route services. We did evaluate express service for all of the study area counties, and for microtransit, there is we looked at Goochland, Hanover, Powhatan was not evaluated because of the changes that GRTC has planned with Link there. And Bay Transit, as I mentioned, they have planned, I believe they're launching the microtransit service in Charles City and New Kent shortly. So existing commuter express service, the existing express routes, which are Stony Point, Gaskins, Commonwealth 20, and Richmond Petersburg Express. They all are anchored at park and ride facilities or parking lots. Of course, limited trips and operate on peak periods only, and limited stops, as is the by definition. They do not extend, any of these express routes do not extend into the study area counties for the RTA. But we found that there is latent demand for connections between these counties, and the more of the urban core in downtown Richmond. And it is in this study, it was assumed that GRTC would be the operator for any new express services in the area. So getting into the actual alternatives, which I'll focus on for the rest of the presentation. These are the alternatives presented for express routes into the rural counties of the region. So clockwise from left, there's the Powhatan Express in yellow, Goochland Express would be in blue, Hanover Express in brown, Charles City in green, and then kind of bunched together, there's Chickahominy Express in pink, which is another option for the eastern counties, and New Kent Express in blue. And we'll go over each of these a little bit more in detail. So to start with Charles City, this is one of the 3 different options that we've presented. Would be service, of course, between Charles City, but also stop at the Bottoms Bridge Park and Ride, which has being expanded from the original Park and Ride lot, and goes into downtown Richmond. It'd be about a 33-mile trip, 40-minute travel time, and would require 2 inbound and 2 outbound trips in the AM and PM peak. And for all of the maps shown here, the GRTC link zones are also included. Solid are the existing zones, and then shaded are the proposed potential zones. And the blue zone that you see on this one is the Bay Transit microtransit zone. New Kent Express, similar. Going to New Kent, Public Works Park and Ride potentially, but primarily to Bottoms Bridge Park and Ride, connecting to downtown Richmond. This would be a 28-mile trip, 33-minute travel time estimated, and would only require 1 inbound and outbound trip in the AM and PM peak. Then kind of a combination of the two. This one's called Chickahominy Express, connecting Charles City Courthouse area, Bottoms Bridge, and possibly the Public Works Park and Ride in New Kent. And this would be, of course, a bit longer, but at 50 miles, 66 minutes one-way trip. And this would have 2 AM trips and 2 PM trips, inbound and outbound. Moving a little bit west, the Hanover Express would utilize Route 33 and would utilize a stop at near Route 33 and Ashland Road, connecting into downtown Richmond. This would be about a 21-mile trip, 22-minute travel time, 1 inbound and outbound trip in the AM and PM. And this there is existing GRTC service, Route 18 service to Parham Road. It only extends to Parham Road on Route 33 right now, but in the future, in the regional transit vision plan, there does show a 15-minute service to Mountain Road along Route 33. So this kind of plays on that vision a little bit. Goochland Express, this would be a 7-mile extension of an existing the existing Gaskins Express route, um, extending 7 miles to get into Goochland County. Um, we're looking at this to serve the park and ride in Eastern Goochland. And so this would be a 19-mile trip overall and a 26-minute travel time one way. So to retain the current service characteristics that we now see with Gaskins Express, we would need 5 inbound and 4 outbound trips, AM, and 4 outbound, or 4 inbound, 5 outbound in the PM. And the existing service of the Goochland or the Gaskins Express rather is about 18 riders per trip. And lastly, with the express routes, we have the Powhatan Express. This would also be an extension of the existing express route, the Stony Point Express. It would be about a 4-mile extension to serve Powhatan County. And would have a mid-stop route at the Huguenot United Methodist Church, where the current terminus is for the Stony Point Express. 24-mile trip, 43-minute travel time, 2 inbound, 1 outbound trip in the AM and PM. And this would require an additional bus to retain the current headways. Existing service is about 13 riders per trip on the Stony Point Express. So getting into the microtransit service alternatives, as I mentioned before, the GRTC link microtransit zones have been mostly well received. Powhatan is expanding to a county-wide service zone as a new demonstration area for Powhatan after the first zone has seen some adjustments. And there are 2 additional zones planned in the that should say the RTA study area in Goochland and Hanover counties. And mentioned before that Bay Transit is operating microtransit in Charles City and New Kent counties. So there are current microtransit zones that extend partially into Hanover County and Powhatan and Goochland, but not significantly. And it's assumed that GRTC would be the operator for any microtransit services. So I'll just run through these because these are kind of similar to the express routes, or they take into account the express routes. So Hanover microtransit area west of Ashland has a high transit propensity, but no current link service. So a future microtransit zone for Hanover County should take into account these western areas and take into account the terminus of a proposed express route if one were to extend out there. These are the population and employment and transit propensity areas, and this we get into this more in the final report. Goochland microtransit, similarly, future microtransit zone for Goochland should take into account a terminus for a possible Goochland Express terminus. Just seeing the time here, so I'm wrapping up a little quickly here. Population, employment density, and transit propensity in Goochland. And as I mentioned, new pilot link zone to cover the entire county. Powhatan would cover the potential terminus for a Powhatan Express route. Charles City and New Kent are being provided microtransit by Bay Transit, so we did not look into that as an option in this study. And to getting wrapping up here, demand response, we did find that population density shows an existing market for demand response in Goochland and Powhatan, and it could provide rural areas with mobility needs. We did look at Jaunt as a peer review, which provides public transit in the Charlottesville area. And so implementing a similar system in Hanover, Goochland, and Powhatan in our region could parallel Bay Transit's demand response services in Charles City and New Kent. So I went over that very quickly. So you can look at the full report, which is about 90 pages on our project website. There's also a shorter, about 15-page community guide that's designed to be a little bit more digestible for the public, and then some technical appendix documents as well. And on the project page on Social Pinpoint, there's all information about the study. So it has all the project documents, timeline and news, contact information, and this was the home for all of our survey throughout the process. So you can look into more of the details of the project on the page here. So the recommended action today is that TAC members should review the draft rural transportation analysis and recommend acceptance for their support as fulfillment for task 7330.1 in the fiscal year 2025 UPWP, and consideration of these recommendations and development of the LRTP Regional Public Transportation Plan and other similar planning efforts. I'm happy to take any questions or hear any comments as well.
Thank you, Dan. I'll hold all my questions. Mr. O'Keefe.
Thank you, Chair Clark. Dan, just had a quick question. I was wondering if in the study, if you looked at van pools as any of the options. I know when we talk about rural transportation and we were talking about some express services, maybe van pools or car pools could help fill in those gaps, especially on, some of those, longer trips.
Yes, I wasn't able to get into that, but yes, van pools and car pools are mentioned in the full report as a component of Park and Ride and the express commuter services.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'll look at the full report as you recommended. Thank you.
Amy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I just want to thank Dan for all of his hard work and Plan RVA for taking on this initiative. I think it was absolutely needed and very important for us to really do a close examination of what rural transit service needs are and what the potential for those recommendations in terms of advancing with service could be. I will just note that I shared my concerns with staff that the ridership analysis generated very low ridership. And I somewhat believe it was due to the methodology that they used and not really taking into consideration the full population and commuter travel patterns as it relates to the express bus. So I will just note that for future reference. In any applications, I would be remiss or I would not necessarily rely on those ridership estimates. Likewise, I think the number of buses, 2 buses outbound, I guess is what you're calling, or inbound, which would be into the city from Powhatan for 13 riders seems excessive. I question how they came up with two vehicles. Likewise, for the Chickahominy Express, such a long route, how did you come up with 2 vehicles for a very low ridership that you are projecting, right? So I believe that the ridership would be much higher in reality. But again, to come up with a recommendation based on such low ridership is questionable. And I've shared all of this previously and other meetings that we've had as part of the rural service. But I think for New Kent, we're very excited to be advancing the microtransit service. The service has been moved to October, just simply due to vehicle availability. And that's when Bay Transit will have enough vehicles to dedicate to our microtransit service. But we're excited about it, and we believe that it's going to be very successful. And we look forward to having express service in the near term. We have the largest growing county in the Commonwealth, and we've announced thousands of jobs coming to our county that need workforce. And I think it's important that we remain flexible in what that express bus service looks like, and that it can be tailored to the workforce and the location of the workforce. So with that, we're going to be looking at creative ways of being able to serve that workforce and to help support the jobs that the high quality, high paying jobs that are locating in New Kent County. So with that, I just thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. Are there any other comments? I will quickly make my comments. I think that it's a very good effort. I'm able to skim through it. I think that this recommended action is a little, it's asking us to review and accept at the same time. And so, Miles, you may tell me how did you want us to review it, or it's been out a month and we've reviewed it and we are just recommending for acceptance?
Yes, Madam Chair, we were just hoping for acceptance for completion of the task as phrased in here. And again, if the TAC needs more time to review, we're happy to defer this. The board doesn't meet again until August, so we could wait another month if that's the need for the TAC.
And just quickly, could you tell me what are the elements or the tasks within the task 733 0.1? What was the task? Just to do a transportation analysis, or did you have things that you were to meet? Just in
No,
checking.
it was specifically to do the rural analysis that we all worked on scoping a year ago when we all sat down as the working group to work through all the goals. But at its core, what the task was the policy board had requested a review of rural public transportation service and recommendations for options to provide service in the rural areas that would be fiscally sustainable.
Okay, and so thank you. So fiscal, does the report have dollar amounts, or because the presentation I didn't see any dollars?
Yes, it gets a bit more into detail in the full report and the technical appendix.
Yeah, and I might add, Madam Chair, on that, the cost per rider that they have is very high because of the methodology that they used to forecast ridership. Okay, so the costs are the cost, right? Based on the cost to provide the service from other providers in Virginia. However, translating that cost to the number of riders increases that cost per rider, making it look like it's just not cost effective. Again, I challenge that, and I would put a high disclaimer in this report and recommend putting a high disclaimer in this report, noting that this did not take into account any travel behavior or any travel patterns that might actually produce a higher ridership. If you look at the express bus that is currently operating in the region, I believe, and I haven't looked at the numbers recently, GRTC or John could correct me, but I believe they're at, or if not exceeding, the capacity. And I have recently heard from folks in the region that they would like to have I think it's the Gascon, maybe is the Parham Road that has been that is discontinued, but they would like to have that service back. So there is a huge demand for express bus, in the suburban areas, but also in the rural areas. So I don't believe that the ridership analysis methodology that they used captured any of that. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. And so one of the observations that I made, noting that you stated that, Amy, is just, I think when you're talking about commuter and what the express service does now, that model that this report is presenting, it really potentially doesn't account for the public, or in your case, combining what you're thinking, like public workforce. And when you do combine those things, you start to look at different times outside of that commuter travel, which then looks more like, can we look at the inner city provider? Do we look at human service providers and looking at filling those gaps? So it's really, I think, potentially a good, landing pad to jump off into some more efforts. So it would be probably some of my recommendation that while this task concludes, there may be some additional work and actually merging what DRPT does and what GRTC does, what DRPT does, and what the rural providers need, and actually getting a good solution. Because again, when I just think about and having done this before in Tennessee and providing rural transportation, it takes a different types in order to provide that connectivity at a cost efficient way, as well as leveraging all of the federal and state dollars to do it. So I think that again, this is a good step in that direction. But I would put in some note for in the recommendation from the chair that we still should and that's where my issue comes in with the LRTP. So how do we anticipate taking this plan and then you said moving it into that next step? Is it moving these express routes as they are, a portion of them, what we can get from it? Tell me what that looks like briefly, I think, before I'll entertain a motion. Thank you,
Sure.
Miles.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may. So the thought here is that these projects could be considered as eligible projects as regionally significant since we are crossing jurisdictional boundaries. These are major commuter corridors that are being planned out. So those could potentially be fed in as projects for consideration in the LRTP. The other thought was obviously with the regional public transportation plan that we work with GRTC on annually, factoring in the idea that there's these expansions into the rural areas as part of that consideration each year. And again, there could be additional refinement on the cost estimates as Amy's mentioned, but just making sure that we're factoring these in as we're planning for transit across the region, that there is service that's needed in the rural area and that we have a vision for it that's a little more fleshed out than what we had before, which was basically, let's look at Bay Transit and see what to do. This gives us a little bit more teeth to it. And like you said, I think there could be more work on refining those recommendations as we get closer to actually implementing, but we need to actually get them into the consideration for those plans to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so maybe when you talk about the cost benefit analysis portion of it, it yeah, because then I think that takes away from the independence maybe of the needed for the localities. All right, so team group, do we have a motion for this action item and this we do have Amy.
Madam Chair, I was just wondering if maybe it might be worthwhile for staff to go back and make some refinements in terms of the language that we've noted here, or just make, maybe some staff notations as it relates to the cost estimates and the ridership, and that further analysis may be required.
Maybe just a memo on from the TAC to accompany. We've done stuff like that before, Miles.
That could be helpful, and then bring it back next month for approval.
So,
Or approve it with the notation that they're gonna make this memo.
And Madam
All
Chair,
right.
if I may,
yes,
can I,
Miles.
would it be possible to get a clear list of which items you would like us to note on that, just so we make sure we capture everything from the motion? So if we are moving it forward with the recommendation, let's make sure we note everything. So it's the cost estimate methodology, the need for additional refinement. Is there a third piece of it?
I
Provider,
think,
Service providers.
service providers and. Mhm.
and I still hear two different motions here. I hear one motion to, well, no action at all, and move it to the next meeting and give time for the TAC to review, or to anticipate. And Ms. Scott, you can help me if anyone has any better clarification here. Or the second is to make note of the items that staff will put in a memo to accompany the recommended action for acceptance.
Chair Clark, I haven't, I heard that suggestion, but I haven't actually heard an actual
No, me
motion,
either.
so
Me
I think
either.
we're not quite there yet.
I didn't make a motion, I just had a further discussion item.
Yep. No, there's no motion on the floor. I was just giving examples of the types of motion that we need, or so we can move on to the next item on our agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the rural public transportation plan provide with staff providing a memo to the document and to the file, noting that further analysis may be needed on ridership estimates, cost estimates, service providers, and the operating plan in terms of refining that as it relates to the ridership.
Madam
Alrighty.
Chair, I'll second. Madam Chair, I'll second Amy's motion.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. We will do a voice vote. I'm sorry, a roll call vote, Ms. Scott.
Okay, let's see, Miss Amos,
Aye.
Vice Chair Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Banuelos,
Aye.
Mr. Longerbeam,
Aye.
Mr. Badunez,
Aye.
Miss Smidler,
Aye.
Miss Inman,
Aye.
Chair Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Bushing,
Aye.
Mr. O'Keefe,
Aye.
Mr. Hudson, Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Mr. Hagan.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 9, Regional Funding Framework Review. Again, we're coming in after our months and months of discussing this for the final action. Miles.
All right, thank you again, Madam Chair. So this is, as you mentioned, the culmination of a multi-month process. So we've been working on this piece of the review for about 6 months. Over the course of those discussions, we've made pretty good strides. We have consensus on 4 pretty significant changes to the program. So the draft document that was attached to the agenda has all of those changes incorporated, as well as a few minor edits to fix typos and address some updated federal guidance that was needed. So just quickly to go back over, we've seen these many times, but first of all, application limits. So the consensus that we reached was reducing the application limits by 1/3. So the large localities went from 10 to 6 applications, small localities and non-locality member agencies from 3 to 2. And that's on page 27 of the agenda packet. On page 36 is the project readiness bonus. So what we did is lay out that after the cost benefit basis, there's up to 10 points available for project readiness, which is really just based on which studies and analysis have been completed. We've discussed all these before. The one change which came from our earlier discussions was 30% design was kind of gray in terms of what that is, and there's no clear-cut agreed on definition across the board. So we just left the NEPA complete in for the full points, and then all the other items are in there as they were previously. On page 38, we incorporated the changes to the TAP program as we discussed in depth at the last meeting. The big discussion from last meeting, as you'll recall, was how to incorporate PSAP into the scoring matrix. And so what we did was take the PSAP and factor that in along with the regional projects. So the top 1% PSAP corridors are the full points along with regional spines. The top 5% PSAP corridors went along with the regional spurs at 7 points. And then local spurs or any of the pedestrian improvements within the half-mile walk shed of a bus stop were 5 points. And then basically anything else that was in the bike ped plan would get 3 points. So this is, again, just formalizing the approach that we already have in place by laying out clearly what is most important regionally. And again, we're trying to capture the PSAP and safety was right up there with building out the spine and spur network. And then finally, on page 43 of the agenda packet is the 50% cost increase waiver. So we've talked about this, that basically now instead of just a 10% up to 10% with TAC and then anything above that at the policy board, it's everything up from 10 to 50% is just through the policy board. Anything beyond a 50% cost increase, it needs to meet one of these three categories, which essentially is it's one of those legacy projects that's been around and in our program for a decade or more, and the cost increases have gone up over the years. So that's just, we need to wrap the project up. Macroeconomic hardships, so another set of COVID-induced inflation where the project costs across the board have all skyrocketed, or locality hardship where locally controlled transportation revenues are not sufficient to cover the deficit, and the TPO is the only source of funding on the project. So basically, if you don't have any other money and it's a 100% TPO funded project, that makes sense that we should continue to look at those. So those were the four categories of changes that we had looked at over the past few months. The request is for you to have reviewed the draft document and recommend approval of the changes to the policy board. Again, just a reminder, the goal for all of this is for us to have these changes in place when we kick off the next funding cycle this fall. So we're hoping to get it to the policy board in August, which is their next meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. JJ?
Hey, Miles, I think in the funding framework, the revised version, it calls out using Cube, and I think VDOT's now requiring PES. So I just wanted to make that note for the cost estimate submittal.
For the cost estimate workbooks.
Yeah.
And that was not something we looked at for the revisions, but I will take a look at that.
And Miles, if you can note that for Chet as well. And I don't know if Chet's on here. Amy?
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I raised my hand prematurely. Yes, I would agree. We just submitted our revenue share application and it uses a different cost estimating method, or I guess it's no longer the cube. I was surprised. It was something different.
Well, we can make that revision at the same time if that's works for everyone, because the intent was always on that to align with VDOT's practice. So if that's changed, we're happy to make that change as well.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to recommend approval of the revisions incorporated into the draft document as discussed over the past few months at TAC for our regional funding programs?
Madam Chair, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve with a note to use the new cost estimating software.
Thank you. Ms.
Second.
Adams. Thank you, Joe. All right, all those in favor, do we need a roll call or voice? You care, Miles?
Voice vote's fine.
Thank you. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Perfect. That motion passes.
All right.
Oh, yay, this is fun. I wanted to originally swap this to the beginning since I wasn't able to have my camera on. So we have come to the time of our FY26 rotation of officers. I do think, Miles, can you put up, is it the next rotation?
Yep. Madam Chair, this is the list, and I just wanted to highlight that Richmond and Charles City swapped for this year since this was Sherry's first year at the TAC. So it does slightly change things from the usual order since we had that swap in place.
Okay, yeah, and let me see, did you put that in the brief, let's see.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
So
I think I just arbitrarily did the other one, not recalling. Yeah, so let's get that in order. So we do have Miss Adams is rotating into chair, and then we have Goochland in the vice chair, and let me see, Mr. Longerbeam, welcome. And then it says here we are back on cycle for 26. So let's see, vice chair. So then Goochland in 26 would be chair, Miles. And then, I'm sorry,
correct. So
20,
in the next fiscal year, it'd be
yeah.
Goochland, and then I believe Powhatan would be the
Okay, good.
vice after that. So we're back on the regular rotation.
Okay, got it. All right. Do we have any other to-do items on this? Do we have to vote on that, or it's already, the rotation is?
We do have to take a vote on this, I believe, and Janice, please weigh in.
Yes, we
see.
do need the vote, even though we're following the rotation. So
Okay,
a
yeah.
motion, a second, and a vote.
Okay, thank you. So based on that information, is there, based on um, Charles City stepping down and being the vice chair this past year, allowing me to chair, thank you. It was great pleasure working with City of Richmond, Dr. Newble, in conjunction being the chair of the policy board. So again, the motion is for Charles City to representative to be the chair, Sherry Adams, and then for Goochland County, Mr. Longerbeam as the vice chair. Is there a motion of the TAC?
This is JJ. I'll motion to have Charles City be the chair and Goochland be the vice chair for this upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you. Second? Is there a second?
John
Second.
O'Keefe, I'll second.
Thank you, John. All right, so I think let's just do a roll call for the sake of making sure all localities on board. Ms. Scott?
Okay. Miss Amos. Vice Chair Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Banuelos.
Aye.
Mr. Longerbeam.
Aye.
Mr. Vidunez.
Aye.
Miss Smidler.
Aye.
Miss Inman.
Abstain.
Chair Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Bushing.
Aye.
Mr. O'Keefe.
Aye.
Mr. Hudson.
Aye.
And Mr. Hagan.
Aye.
Thank
That
you.
motion carries. Let me know if I missed anyone. I think we've had a one or two people have left, but I believe I got everyone. If not, just let me know.
Thank you. We are 3 minutes within our hour. I think you did get everyone. That motion passes. Thank you, everyone. On to the next item, the meeting schedule.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Miles.
So this meeting schedule was included in your packet. We also included the meeting schedules for the policy board and the CTAC. So you have all of those available. The schedule for the TAC is meeting every month. Obviously, we can cancel as meetings aren't needed, but the plan right now is to meet every month. Our request for this right now is a discussion. We just wanted to open it up and look at if there were any conflicts with any religious or cultural holidays that we need to know about. Please let us know so we can look for other dates for those meetings potentially. But the other big thing that I really wanted to discuss was, is there any interest in having in-person meetings? I've heard from several of you that you would like to do some in-person, maybe once a quarter. So we just wanted to open it up for the full TAC to have a discussion. And if there is a consensus, staff will work to get a schedule for which of those meetings would be in person here at the Plan RVA offices. We've looked at trying to do other locations, but the logistics are really just much more feasible here at the office. So we're just hoping that there's some consensus one way or another, because I've heard from several of you that you do want to meet in person sometime. So that's really all I had on this item, Madam Chair. Happy to take any input.
Yeah, thank you. Nora?
Hi, actually, I was going to bring that up. That was I raised my hand when you brought up the meeting schedule. I like having 99% of our meetings virtually, personally. But I was hoping in July we could have an organizational meeting in person, and I would be happy to provide the special presentation.
Thank you, Nora. So right now do we have consensus on, I even think, the quarter or at least two a year. And yeah, and definitely, because I think that'll give the people the presentation. So I even recommend maybe like up to two. But I'll take any input. Okay, great. Mr. Longerbean.
I think twice a year sounds good to me. Here in Goochland, I'm an army of one as far as transportation is concerned. So I like twice a year, but I could manage quarterly if it's best for the group.
Thank you. Sharon?
I like Nora's suggestion with kicking off the fiscal year with an in-person meeting, kind of organizational meeting for July. And I agree with Patrick and you, Dirona, maybe I think semi-annually could be good, twice a year. But again, if the overall group wants quarterly, we can, but 1 to 2 sound good to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, Ms. Adams.
Yes, I could do the July suggested meeting that Nora made, and I too, like a lot of localities, am a force of one, so I think just maybe twice a year would be good for me as well. So I'm kind of in the same boat.
Okay, and then Miles, so that sounds good. It looks like you have definitely a July. That's a great idea. At least everybody can get to see everyone's face on who's their chair and everything, and their vice chair. And then maybe that's your to-do task, is to look over the other months on what would potentially be a good second one, right?
Yes, we can definitely come back with a proposal for when we would hold another in-person meeting later in the year. And I think this is, as Martha just put in the chat, it's good for the kickoff to also then be able to review the work plan and all the projects that we're kicking off for the year. So I think this is, we're really on board with the July meeting, so that should be great. And I guess the only other thing I'd add, Madam Chair, is just if anyone does have any conflicts, please just email me or Janice so we can take a look at those. The earlier you let us know, the easier it is to potentially look at shifting dates and schedules. So.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's pretty set. All right, so thank you. Moving on. Let's see. Oh, Lord.
This is the final item, Madam Chair. So our policy board voting is the item that we have on the agenda. Essentially, just for context, I put a slide up here, but at the last policy board meeting, we started some discussion about updating the bylaws. And during that discussion, one of the items that came up, and there was a bit of a lengthy discussion on it, was that the voting system that we use with the weighted voting for the policy board is pretty complicated in how we've implemented it, because each locality has a different approach to how the votes are assigned. So for example, in some cases, if a person is present and their other counterpart isn't there, they get both votes. But in other cases, the counterpart has an actual alternate who is the only person that could take the vote. There's a lot of complexity on how all the votes work. And the request from the policy board was for the TAC to review and provide input to confirm all of those locality policies. And I think Janice has a document that she's able to share on what that looks like, and we'll be able to send it out after the meeting. But the idea here is that we want to take a look at how all of the policy board votes and weighting are working and making sure that that's still aligned with the localities. Staff is also willing to take a look at best practices and bring them back if that would be helpful, just to make sure that we're making everyone's life as easy as possible. So Janice, if you have anything you want to share and add on to that.
Yes. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I have sort of gone through and indicated what our understanding is for each locality's voting preferences. And in most cases, particularly with the localities with 1 or 2 votes, it's very clear. We do have some questions for the localities with more votes, such as Chesterfield. We do know that Chesterfield has designated Mr. Holland as the member who has 2 votes, and the other 2 members have 1. We are not clear, for example, if Dr. Miller, the alternate, attends, how many votes does he cast in the various situations? If he was, if he is the only Chesterfield County representative, does he cast 4 votes? If he attends along with Mr. Carroll, does he cast 1 vote, or does he cast 2 as if he is attending for Mr. Holland? So what I wanted to do, I won't go into too much detail about it, but what I thought is that I would send this document to all of you just to verify with your locality that we have it correct. And then I have a form that I'm creating, for example, for Chesterfield, that says, in this case, Mr. Carroll attends and Mr. Holland doesn't. Does Mr. Carroll have 1 vote still, or 2 votes? It just a form where the locality can really clarify what they want to happen in different situations. It would rarely be needed because 9 times out of 10, the policy board votes unanimously for all actions. But if we ever had a case where there was a contested vote, we really need to know how those alternate votes are to be, how many votes the alternates cast in different situations. And as Miles mentioned, also for determining a quorum. If an alternate is present in place of multiple members, if this, then that, I guess, if that makes sense. So I will send that out later today, if that's okay. And if you could just clarify that. I think what we'll probably be doing from now on, whenever there is a membership change, or possibly just once a year, we'll probably send that form out to say, hey, now we have this member instead of that member. Are all the voting preferences still the same? That's all I had on that. If that's okay, I'll just send that out later today.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Sharon?
Yeah, that would be great to send that out so we have it documented. I remember going through this exercise in 2022 with the board members and the voting. And so I know we have documentation we sent to Chet and you then, but I'm happy to provide, more clarification and make sure we still want that. And I think that's great to send the form out to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, Henrico County is pretty clear on theirs. The only thing that I'm unclear about is if the one alternate attends in place of both regular members, which again would likely never happen, but does that alternate get all 4 votes or just 2? So just little things like that. So I'll get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Amy?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Janice, would you mind clarifying for the new Kent? I just barely saw it, but it looked like
Oh.
Mr. Moyer only has 1 vote, but then our
No,
alternate
he has
has 2
He has
votes?
2, and then Miss Stewart if she attends, she carries both votes
But
if
on
she
the,
attends in Mr. Moyer's absence.
all right, but on the sheet you have, it says that Mr. Moyer only has 1 vote, but he should have 2 votes when
He
he's
does.
there.
Yeah,
And
his
then,
2 votes. Yes, I've just updated that.
so can you please make sure that's correct? Thank you.
Yes, it's yes, I've updated it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? All right, awesome. I don't know why my screen is so big. But moving, Miles, can you move us to the next item? Is that our agency updates? My agenda.
Yes, we're through all the staff items right now.
Yes, so transportation agency update. Sorry, I got it here. I don't know, DRPT, did you hold on with us?
I'm still here.
Excellent.
I got nothing to share for the board today. Thanks for the opportunity to be included on the agenda to give updates, though.
No problem. GRTC.
Sure, yeah, that's me. So I have a few things. GRTC is excited to roll out a major service upgrade this summer, and we're celebrating with the region on Tap into Transit Day. That's happening at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, July 8th at Main Street Station. This event will also mark the official launch of our new 60-foot articulated pulse buses and the debut of our Transit Access Partnership, or TAP, a community-driven initiative focused on keeping GRTC zero fare for everyone. These new buses are built for our busiest route with 3 doors for faster boarding and room for up to 122 riders. They'll improve frequency, reduce crowding on the buses, and support continued growth along the pulse. We currently have 4 articulated buses on site here at our headquarters, with plans to add 8 more by early next year as we prepare to expand the pulse and prepare for a future north-south BRT corridor. Tap into Transit Day will be an interactive showcase of these upgrades and a celebration of the partnerships that are making it possible. The community can tour the new buses, test out real-time tools, and learn how zero fare transit connects people to jobs and more opportunity. And then our final note is demolition is underway at our headquarters at 325 East Bell Boulevard, adjacent to the headquarters in the lot located out front. Once cleared, the space will support additional bus parking and has potential for future operation. Has potential in the future as operational needs grow. And that wraps up our agency update for GRTC, and I can answer any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions for GRTC? All right, hearing none. Ride Finders, Mr. O'Keefe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ride Finders had a busy month last month, so I'll warn you, it's a little long. I apologize. We did attend table and events and provide information about our programs and services at the Cape Pasa Festival, the DRPT Central Benefits Fair, the Central Virginia Benefits Fair for state employees, the City of Richmond Health and Wellness Benefits Fair, and the Music on Main musical series to celebrate the Multimodal Month, where we reached over 400 attendees collectively during all of these events. We presented our programs and services to Richmond International Airport staff, and that included more than 40 tenants. We attended the Bike and Walk to School Day event at Westover Hills Elementary with safe routes to schools. We also attended the Virginia Transportation Association Conference. And Ride Finders is featured in the first annual report of the 2024 ACT Global TDM Impact Report. We're right there at the beginning under the Marketing Communications section for our 3rd annual Care and Commutes campaign. And also wanted to mention that, again, we're blessed to receive 2 awards at the Virginia Professional Communication Spring Conference. Ride Finders won first place for the Ride Finders newsletter and second place for our 3rd annual Caring Commutes Challenge and 3rd place award for our Why Carpool with Commander Carpool social media series. We also attended the Virginia Public Relations Awards hosted by the Richmond chapter of the PRSA. Um, and we were a finalist for 2 Capital Awards, which recognized outstanding public relations tactics executed as a part of a broader communications campaign. And with that, Madam Chair, that is my report for Ride Finders, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. And I apologize it was so long.
No, very good. Thank you. Thank you for all that you all do. Had you out at the Main Street series, and that was exciting. So thank you for getting the word out in Richmond. Moving to our next update, VDOT.
Okay, so May CTB meeting, the consensus scenario for Smart Scale was passed. All of the staff recommended scenario projects were included in that, with the addition of 2 projects. US Route 60 at State Route 13 and 603, the RCUT project in Powhatan was added. And then I-64 exit 211, the interchange improvement and project in New Kent County was added. That's the new consensus scenario moving forward to the June CTB meeting where the final SYIP, which will include the smart scale projects, will be included. So that next CTB meeting, the workshop's on the 24th, the action meeting's on the 25th. Next deadlines for TA and revenue sharing, August 15th, the smart portal will open for full applications. And then September 15th, the full applications are due. So it's about a month we have there. And let's see. Oh, last plug for an upcoming DocuSign training. This is for all of our localities that we work with on locally administered project agreements. On Thursday, June 26th, from 9 to 11, we're going to have a training here at our Richmond district office to share with everybody a new pilot program we're going to have, where we're going to be processing agreements through DocuSign to hopefully expedite the process and get the agreements executed quicker. That's it for me.
Thank you. It's awesome. Thank you. We know that Mr. Davis, Rex Davis, got recognized by the CVTA for all his hard work for the Richmond region. And so thank you, VDOT, for working with him and the members in the region on getting that 6-year improvement program almost to the finish line. So thank you. All right, we're moving on to our just an update, look at the newsletter. Any TAC member comments? Long meeting, but very effective. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, July the 8th. At that time, so this is my last meeting. So I am signing off as your chair. Thank you all so much. It's been such a pleasure. Look forward to working with you all. All of my tell those folks they're retiring and we have new faces coming in. So welcome. And I hope to continue to work with each of you collegially throughout the region. So thank you so much. Any comments? I saw Amy pop on.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you, Dirona, for all of your great leadership with the TPO, TAC, and with CBTA. Your efforts and your sincere concern for everybody, I think that, for the betterment of the region is very well noted. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Long time friend. Thank you.
That's right.
So with all that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.